Hello everyone and welcome to a new video in our Python series. Hope you are doing great so far. In today's video we're gonna continue our introduction to lists, and we're gonna give examples on slicing and indexing, and we're gonna see how to modify a list using indexing, and we're gonna see how we're slicing and indexing when we have nested lists. So let's jump right into it. As any good programming practice, we're starting with our names, one of the simple ways. Then we're starting with our date, today the 23rd, 2020, and this time we're just going with our title, and we're just gonna calling slicing and indexing. So before we start our practice, I'm just gonna say a quick disclaimer that I'm gonna just put it in the description and put it on the screen, the first part of our introduction to lists, so please check it out if you haven't. So let's start. So before, the most important thing to start when we talk about lists, well, when we talk about slicing and indexing, is understanding what's an index, right? So let's give an example about kingdom. Now these kingdoms are just basically like, we're talking biology here. So we're starting with bacteria, and then protozoa, and then chromista. Just refreshing your biology understandings. And then plantae, and then fungi, and then we could call it any male. Yeah. Okay. So the most important concept in today's video is index, because that's what's based on it in indexing and slicing, so we have to understand what. So let's say we want to count the elements in here. So we go with a 0, and then a 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then a 4, and then a 5. If you checked, the other video, we were talking about operations on lists, and you would say, yeah, the length of it is 6, right? This could be useful when you're doing the negative indexing, because what I just said right now was the positive indexing. What is the negative indexing? If you go basically the reverse, so you're going at the very last element, which would go as a -1, and then a -2, and then a -3, and then a -4, and then a -5, and then a -6. So basically this is just a negative indexing, and that's a positive indexing. So this is really important when we're doing slicing and when we're doing indexing, because you need to know the index of them. So let's start with saying that we want to know the first item. It's very simple, really. We just made a variable to get the first item, so we're gonna do it both in the indexing and slicing. So this is just a syntax in Python. We'll go with kingdoms, which is the name of the list, and then in indexing, because this is indexing, we're not using any columns, we're just using a number. Indexing, basically, this is very important to note, it's just you're trying to find an element, just one element. So let's say we want to say the first item, which is bacteria. So as we said, this is the 0, right? And then just simply print it, make as simple as that to understand. Now it's usually an important thing to consider is if you want to see if you're doing correct or not, you usually print, because in longer programs it might be hard to really pinpoint where is the problem, where is the bug, so it's just easier to print when you do like when you do something like that. Simple, but if you print it, you know what's it. Because if you try maybe to use this variable in other things and in other maybe calculations or something, it wouldn't be the same. Now we want bacteria 2, we want as the first item, but we want it in the negative indexing. What is that? That's a -6, because animal is -1, and then we just count back. Very simple. That's very much indexing. Let's see, we want the last item. So not any different than what we did. This is also indexing, so animally here is a -1, negative indexing, right? And let's, well, I did the -1 anyway. Be careful when you're typing fast, because you might end up getting it wrong and you don't understand why am I doing it wrong, because you just typed wrong. It's that simple. So that's by a negative indexing, right? And if we do it as a 5, because we're starting from bacteria to 0, that's positive indexing, and we just have it the same. Let's do slicing. Let's say we want to go from bacteria to chromista, right? So how do we do that? Let's call it slice 1. And really indexing and are very simple concepts. Once you get them, it's usually really easy to do them. Now they're also not only used in lists, they're used in other types, like strings. You can slice a string, you can index a string. It's the same thing, and even the index system is the same, right? So how do we slice? First number you write is basically the very beginning, and since bacteria is already in the very beginning, so you don't have to write a 0. It just automatically does the 0, so you don't have to write anything. This just automatically means that this is the beginning. We end at chromista. So what is the index for chromista? It's a 2, because that's 0, that's 1, and then that's a 2. And then we don't write a 2. Why? Because the ending index is exclusive, meaning that you write a 3, but when you write a 3, it just means that it ends at chromista. It doesn't take in plant type. No, it just ends at chromista. This is very important to note, because you could make mistakes in it. And then we could write a 1 automatically. That's the thing, automatically, without the 1 in the column, it automatically iterates by 1. What does it mean by iterating by 1? It goes by 1. It doesn't jump, it doesn't do anything, it just goes simply by 1. And then we just print it to see what it does. Now there is something important when we talk about slicing. Now slicing, people would say that you get a new list from it. What do I mean by a new list? It means that if we print kingdom, there won't be any change. Why is that? Because this slice 1 is like a list on its own, right? And this kingdoms is a list on its own too. So basically this is a new list from this. So when you're doing the slicing, you're not modifying the already existing list. No, you're just making a new list. That's simple. It's also very important to note about, because when you're like running larger programs, you would have to know what variable stands for, because sometimes in certain list methods, what would happen is that it would automatically modify the original variable, whether it's a list, whatever, it just automatically do that. So you would be like, oh, it doesn't make a new one. It's not like we're doing in slicing. Here it's a new list. Okay, so let's do another slicing. Let's call it a slice 2. So let's go from chromista to fragile. So it's right here, and square brackets. So we're not starting from the beginning, so we can do the same thing here. We have to start. So chromista is 2, so we're starting from a 2, and then fungi is a 4. Right, but we write a 5. because we said it's exclusive, and we just print it. So I haven't introduced the negative indexing and slicing. I'll introduce it in a minute. And there it is, from Chromista to fungi. So this will be this is a -6, this is a -5, and this is a -4. So in here this would be a -4, and then in here would be fungi. Well, let's not look at fungi. Okay, we have to make it as a -1. It would be exclusive anyway. Let's run it, and there you go. That's a negative slicing. Let's say you want to do it as an empty list. Okay, you don't want anything. How do you slice it to make it an empty list? This is important. Now you can do it obviously in the negative and in the positive indexing. It's not big of a deal, but let's actually understand the concept behind how can you make an empty list. So in here it's going on a range of numbers. What you want to do is you don't want it to move in any range, meaning let's suppose you want to do it like from a 1 to a 0 in the positive indexing. You're like, that's a 1 and that's a 0. Yes, but you forgot something. This is exclusive, meaning it wouldn't count anything anyway. Like that simple. It wouldn't count it, right? Because it's exclusive, and exclusive means that it will go as a -1, but you're going positive indexing. You get the point? So there would be any number. Like, think about it this way. You want to go in a slice where it would just give you nothing. Null. As you see, this is a 1, this is a 0. Okay, so let's do it the negative, right? And simply put, the negative would just be a -1, so a -2, and literally how is it basically when you think about it? It's like you're thinking about going in the reverse direction. But that's the thing, because this is exclusive. It's as if you're saying go from -1 to -1, which basically says, oh, I'm not going anywhere. It gives you an empty list. And there you go, another empty list. Now let's talk about something more interesting. Let's talk about nested lists. Okay, so let's give an example on units. Okay, this is the main bracket. Then we do another bracket, and okay, so we go kilometers, and then we go miles. It's a string, by the way. Miles, and then we go leagues. Now you're thinking, are these units? Yep, they're units. Just they're not used right now as much. Then we have kilograms, and then we have pounds, then we have stones. Okay, so this is a nested list. You have basically lists. You're thinking, oh, what are the indexes in it? Very, very simple. This is the first list, so this has an index of a 0, and this is the second list, and this has an index of 1. These are the positive indexes. The negative indexes would be, this is a -1, this is the second list from the left, basically, and then this is -2, which is the second list in the negative indexing. So let's start with indexing. Indexing might seem a bit weird, but it's not that hard. Okay, so before we do indexing, let's say that maybe I don't want this kilometer, but like it's already written and I want to change it. How do I modify it without using, list methods or operations on lists? So you just go units, then Oh, well, I have to introduce the indexing first before I do this. But in process, while I'm doing this, I'm introducing the indexing in nested list. So as we said, this has an index of 1. Let's go with it. With a 0. Let's go with it as the positive indexing, right? Now, in this way, when we do it like as such only, that means you're only getting the list itself. You're not getting any of the elements in the list. You wanna get the elements, you do another square bracket, and you just count normal. 0, that's a 0. The kilometers is a 0. The miles is a 1, and the leagues is a 2. Let's say, because I wrote leagues with a capital letter, I don't want it a capital letter, so I'll just write a 2 and literally write string leagues. Okay, that's simple. Then we literally just go print this list. It modifies this. In this case, it modifies the list, the already existing list. It doesn't make you a new list, right? Let's see. Sorry, I didn't run it. And there you go. It's not capital anymore. It's really simple way of modifying lists. Okay, this is basically indexing. So let's say we want the first item in the second list. So not the first list, but the second list. And let's say we want to do it in the negative indexing. How do we do that? Really, really simple. Let's look at it. So negative indexing. We said that the negative indexing, this would be the first list from, the left side, and that would be a -1. Then another square bracket to get our kilograms, and that would just simply be, because we're going negative indexing, so you have to, so that's the thing. If the first bracket, which you got, whichever list that you want, if you're going negative indexing, you have to go negative indexing in the other bracket too to get the elements. You have to be consistent, basically. You can't make it different. So in here be a -3. Why is it a -3? Because this is a -1, a -2, and then a -3. Very simple. Then let's print it. First item. Okay. And there we go, we got our kilograms. We did it with negative indexing too. Okay, let's say we want to do slicing. Now in slicing, we're just gonna play a bit with it. And the thing is, in slicing, you're only gonna be getting, you're only gonna be able to work with one list at a time. You won't be able to work with all lists. So if you want to, because if you want to slice and maybe got other lists, that's not the same way of doing it, or at least not this way. So let's say I want to have kilometers and leagues. Okay, obviously through slicing. So you go units, square brackets. Let's say we're going through it the easier way, the positive indexing, and now we want to get kilometers and leagues. So it's automatically starting from all of it. We're taking all of the list, so it automatically starts and ends are the same. So you don't have to write any number. It automatically understands that this is the whole list. But let's say we want it to rate, meaning we don't want the miles. Because remember what I said? I just said I want kilometers and I want leagues. Have to think about it. And an easy way to do it is to iterate by 2. We can simply do that and then print it. You got your kilometers and leagues very, very simply. And voila, it's right there. It's a kilometer and leagues. Very simple way about thinking. You don't have to think about it. Let's say you want to do it the negative indexing. Well, the thing is with here, it doesn't really matter anyway. You're taking the whole list, so you're not really indexing. You're just taking the whole list and you're just iterating. If you wanted with a negative indexing, however, we could just go a -1 and a -2. I don't think that would work. Or Oh, wait. Oh. Well, it actually worked, but it didn't work for the list that I wanted to work for. So what happened here is we didn't get it as kilograms and stones. Here we're going the reverse, which is pretty interesting. So in here we basically just got stones and then kilograms, right? As here, consistency is key. We're using negative indexing, and this is what we get. Okay, so what I wanted for though was the other list, -2. And there you go, our leagues and kilometers. This is sometimes could be useful in certain situations and so on. Okay, so let's say that we want in our other list to simply just concatenate the list, because I remember we can modify our list. And let's say we want to add something else to it. So let's say we want to add another kingdom. Now, by the way, there isn't any other kingdoms, but let's say there was a kingdom of... But now let's just assume it's a kingdom, right? And it's not there. And right here is going to be printed, so let's print it early on. And to see that it actually works. Now, obviously all our calculations are going to be different, and there you go, it got added. Now, if you did it like this, however, so no longer a list, it's a string, it wouldn't work. See, because it's not str, so if we only concatenate a list with a list, not an str, so that's why it wouldn't work here. We needed to have the same type, which is a list. Okay, let's say that you want to have these elements iterated multiple times. Maybe you were doing voting on these type of kingdoms and you're seeing maybe how many times you just want to iterate it, and this is the way of iterating it. You're just doing it with the multiplication sign, which is an asterisk, and you just multiply it 3 times. And this is gonna just be one large list. There you go. This is the first time. Right. We end at animalia. So this is the first time. Then this is our second time. And then this is our third time. These are just simple tricks to actually change our lists and modify our lists easily. So thank you for watching, and hope you have clarified and understood basic concepts but vital concepts in slicing and indexing in lists. And please like, share and subscribe, and also please leave us a comment down below telling us what you would want to see more in the Python series. And thank you for watching and listening.